Welcome to Cook the Garden Podcast, your weekly audio source for delicious and easy garden fresh recipes and growing tips. I'm your host, Ginain. Let's cook the garden. Hello, and welcome back to Cook the Garden. This is episode number 9. So with the holidays upon us, I felt the need to share this recipe that I posted to my blog, Cook, Pray, Slay, about a year ago. It's perfect for the holidays, and whether you grow this delicious veggie or you purchase it from your local grocery store or a farmer's market, it's always a hit on the dinner table. But before I share this recipe and gardening tip, I want to ask you something, friends. Are you enjoying this podcast? If so, and you would like to continue to hear more, please just take a few seconds to visit my podcast profile and leave a 5-star review and a comment. This really helps get the word out, and it provides so much value to this podcast. I really appreciate you doing that. So now let's get back to why we're here today. I have an amazing side dish for you to try this holiday season. So I have an unpopular opinion about green bean casserole, guys. I simply don't like it. I never have been a fan of it, but I'll never say never. If you have the bomb green bean casserole recipe you think that'll change my mind, let me know. Send me an email at info@cookprayslay.com or just send me a message on Instagram at Cook the Garden. This recipe for me has been my go-to alternative to green bean casserole. It's my sauteed green beans with cranberries and nuts. Everything about this dish is just absolutely perfect. There's just something about biting into these fresh green beans, perfectly sauteed, with the sweet and tanginess of the dried cranberries and the crunchy texture and lightly roasted walnuts. It's really the perfect and quick and easy side dish for the holidays. So now my family loves this dish so much. I make it every Thanksgiving now, and it's just something super simple that I could whip up in under 30 minutes. So as far as green beans go, they're everywhere right now, which is a good thing. They're available nearly year-round in supermarkets, but however, the peak season for fresh green beans and wax beans actually runs between May through September or October, depending on where you're located. Later on in the episode, I'll share some information about the different types of green beans, how they can be grown, and also I'll share some of my tips about freezing your green beans as well to have throughout the season. But right now, let's get into this recipe. For your ingredients, we're going to start with about a pound of fresh green beans, 1 cup of dried cranberries, 1 cup of walnuts roasted, and I'll share a recipe for the roasting as well. 2 to 3 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 cups water, and salt and pepper to taste. So let me just start by sharing the directions for roasting the walnuts. So first you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Spread a single layer of the peeled walnuts onto a baking sheet. Next, you want to place in the oven and bake for about 10 minutes until the nuts are golden brown. Make sure to toss halfway through the roasting process so they bake evenly. And then the last step, you want to remove the nuts and set them aside to cool to room temperature. So while those are cooling, we can go ahead and get started by sauteing your green beans. First, we want to start by prepping our green beans. So we're going to wash the beans, then snap off and discard the stem ends, pulling any strings down along the length of the beans. For this recipe, I normally keep the beans whole, but if you want to, you can certainly cut them to your desired length. You can even French style them by slicing lengthwise into halves or quarters. But like I mentioned, I do like to leave them whole. I think they look really pretty when you have the cranberries in there and the walnuts. So I definitely leave them whole for this particular recipe. So after you've washed and prepped the green beans, you're going to add about 2 cups of water to a medium or large pan on medium heat. Add the green beans to the pan and cover and let it cook for about 8 to 10 minutes until the green beans are nice and tender. Check on them frequently to be sure that they're not overcooking or that the veggies, you don't want them to become too soft or wilted. So definitely just kind of keep an eye on it as they're cooking. Once the tenderness is to your liking, drain all the water. Add your olive oil over medium heat and begin to saute the green beans. Now you want to add your garlic, your salt and pepper, and toss it all together for about 4 to 5 minutes. You're going to add the dried cranberries toward the end when the green beans are to your liking, and then you're going to toss it with your green beans for about a minute or so. What you don't want to do is overcook it or cook the cranberries too long. This will actually cause the coloring to become dark, and you're going to lose that deep red tone, that beautiful red tone of the cranberries. It will begin to darken very quickly the longer it cooks. So again, you just want to toss it with the green beans for just about a minute or so. So next you're going to remove it from the heat and place it into a dish. Then this is when you sprinkle the roasted nuts over the green beans. And it's ready to be served. It's so simple. You can literally just have this entire dish done in about 20 to 25 minutes. So I have a great make ahead tip as well. If you're prepping this for Thanksgiving dinner or just any kind of holiday dinner, you can actually plan to make this meal ahead. All you have to do is leave out the roasted nuts and the dried cranberries until you're ready to reheat the green beans. You can actually roast and store the walnuts in an airtight container until you're ready to use it. Reheat the green beans, then quickly saute the dried cranberries for only about 1 to 2 minutes. And that's it. It's so super simple. So if you wanted to knock this out the night before Thanksgiving, you can certainly do that by taking those steps. Another question I typically get is around alternatives to walnuts. And so if you're not a fan of walnuts, you can leave them out altogether, or you can substitute with a different nut. Almonds, pecans, or even cashews roast really nicely and offer amazing flavor. So for those of you who are thinking about growing green beans, I have a few tips that I wanted to share. So I just wanted to start off with the main difference between the many types of green beans is whether their growing style is classified as a bush or a pole bean. Those are the two distinguishing qualities. Bush beans grow a little bit more compactly. They reach only about 2 feet tall, and they don't require extra support like a trellis. So it grows more basically like a bush. Pole beans, on the other hand, grow as climbing vines that may reach anywhere between 10 to 15 feet tall, and they actually do require a trellis or staking. If you're going the route of pole beans, you want to make sure that you set up any supports, staking, or any kind of trellises. Set that up prior to planting. The reason for this is because beans don't like to have their roots disturbed. So to prevent that, definitely make sure that you have all of those support in place before you plant your beans. So those were just a few little growing tidbits I wanted to share with you guys. But I also want to talk about how to select your fresh green beans from the store. You want to make sure to look for loose green beans, which will allow you to pick the freshest ones. I know that a lot of grocery stores offer the pre-packaged ones, and if that's all you have access to, that's absolutely fine. But if you do have the option to pick your own, I definitely recommend going that route. You want to choose slender beans that are brightly colored and crisp and free of any blemishes or brown spots. You want to store them in a refrigerator and have them tightly wrapped in a plastic bag for up to 5 days. Now, you can also freeze your fresh green beans. In fact, I love doing that. It's a really great way to preserve your fresh veggies and to have them throughout the year when you may not have them readily available to you in the stores. So if you opt to freeze your green beans, I recommend blanching to maintain their beautiful deep green color. And to also maintain its flavor and the texture. So if you're not familiar with the term blanching, what it is, it's simply a method that kills the enzymes that cause loss of flavor, color, and texture. Simply cook the fresh green beans in boiling water for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then immediately transfer them to a bowl with ice cold water to thoroughly cool the green beans. After soaking in the ice bath, you want to pat it dry and continue to store it in a freezer-safe container or bag. Frozen green beans can last for up to 10 months. This makes me wonder if I need to do an episode on blanching your fresh vegetables. If that's a topic you want to hear more about, please feel free to send me a message via email or social media. So that's my time for today, friends. I certainly hope that this recipe finds its way to your Thanksgiving or holiday dinner table. Let me know if it does. Remember to get the full recipe link in the show notes, and thank you all once more for listening today, and have a blessed week. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Cook the Garden. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. As a new podcast, it really helps to add value while growing our awesome community. As always, I really appreciate it. Until next time, friends, keep slaying those garden fresh recipes.